Good morning. This is the Committee on Water and Land, and we are on the Tuesday's agenda, April 16, we are in room 225. Just some housekeeping measures. We'd like to say that for those testifiers, we ask that you stand on your written testimony or limit your oral testimony to, we'll go 2 minutes today because we have a very slight agenda, and we'd like an opportunity for members to speak as well. But this also allows our committees and those who are testifying to allow more time as we continue our conversation. The content of this hearing can be found on the legislature's website. The live video stream and archive of this hearing is on the Senate's YouTube channel. Decision-making will occur from all of those testifiers that we conclude with the decision-making after this hearing. We will, good morning. We'd like to welcome the new Executive Director, John DeFries, to this meeting as well. We will proceed with GM 729 and this, Chair will proceed with GM 730, and that's only the reason because our representative of the Stewardship and Oversight Authority is here in person. So we will take GM 730, and then we will proceed with those on Zoom after, who are GM 729 and 731. Submitting for consideration and confirmation to the Mauna Kea Stewardship and the Oversight Authority, GM Gary Krug Jr. for a term to expire June 30th, 2028. And the chair would also want to, as we have been presented with the governor's office on a correction, as we have spoken with the nominees, that the terms for the GMs should have an expiration date of June 30th, 2027. And this incorrect year was stated in the previous appointment letters, and the committee has notified those that are here this morning of the new date as well. And I understand reason for the change is that this particular authority can go beyond the 6 years. That's our understanding. So they have been notified. Okay. With regards to GM, okay, I do have a testifiers list. Okay, testifying for GM 730, we'd like to welcome John Komeji, and he is with the authority as well on testifying. Morning, John.
I'll stand on my testimony. Vice Chair, stand on my testimony.
Okay. Thank you, John. We also received communication from Rich Matsuda, who is also a member of the authority, and he sends communication in support. Anyone else here wishes to speak on GM 730? Okay, hearing none. Oh, yeah. Good morning.
Good morning, Douglas Adams, Director of Research and Development at County of Hawai'i, and also member of the Mauna Kea Stewardship and Authority, Oversight Authority, representing Mayor Schroff, and here in support of
Thank you very much for your presence here as well. Appreciate you traveling from Hilo to make this, and hopefully there's other meetings scheduled as well for your attendance. Appreciate that. Okay, nominee. Gary Krug. Good morning. Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you for having me back.
Okay. We'd like to at least hear from you today since, and for those out there on Zoom land as well, and for the general public, the nominees were nominated 2 years ago as well. And this is an extension for the next term as well. And so we appreciate your attendance here. And there probably will be, because you are an extension for the next term, how have you been enjoying yourself as well, or what you have learned, and also brief the committee with regards to what's been happening. In particular, I understand the organization has already organized and created the PIGS sessions for most of you as well. So if you can share what has been happening in the last year and a half that you've been in office.
Okay. Well, thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, for having me, and other committee members. So over the last, the term that I've shared with the members of the authority, for me, I'll just start off by saying it's been very enjoyable to be able to sit and collaborate with folks of similar philosophy. And I think that philosophy was what I shared when we were talking about building collectivity, establishing systems to that generate and provide process for people to actually engage in talking about Mauna Kea and talking about it in a way that brings us all together. And so I think that's what I've learned over this past term, that's the collective philosophy. Like it's such a good unified group that we have right now in terms of how we engage with each other, our discourse strategies, how the chair brings things to our awareness, and then how, how do we settle down into critical discussions that actually get us to a positive point. And I think that not only have we established those hiring committees and getting our systems structure in place to have an authority that has proper process, proper procedures, and appropriate measures to move forward. But I think the relationships that are being built right now, that would be my greatest comment over the last term that I've been spending there, is that I really feel like these are the right people, and they're bringing the right philosophy to the table, and they have the fortitude and courage to have the right conversations in the right way for Hawaii. So thank you.
Questions, members, anyone? We have this committee, and in most of the confirmations process, most of the committees on those who are on an extension for continuation of another term, questions may be different from when you first appeared for the confirmation process. And I think, in all honesty, to those that are here for the first time, an opportunity to get to learn the process at the first hand. So with that said, you're on your second term. So we'd like to go back then to the questionnaires and the questions that was presented to the committee, which all of you had kindly brought and turned in the questionnaire, and we appreciate that as well. And so that's why the question with regards to, how do you feel that the first year and a half has been? And we know it's a new authority, so there was no record of information to follow you for the public's record. Now, on the pig side, were you given opportunity to sit down and look at what that particular process that was set up
Mhm.
for you to participate in?
Yeah, so the first hiring pig that we had was for the assistant to our new director. And that was the first hire. And that was the hiring committee I got to sit on with other members, Pome Bertelman and Rich Masuda as well. I think the process, although new for the authority, not new for many of us, because the hiring processes that we've been established and that we're walking through right now, it's really nothing more than other committees of governmental agencies. So I've sat on the Charter School Commission and I've sat on PIGS before to hire our executive directors, and it looks really similar to those experiences in the past. But it allows us, a way to establish the authority and really get our bearings and how we're going to frame and function, how we move forward. So that was my experience on that hiring. That was
Okay.
established.
Secondly, on the second terms of the committees, there has been questions with regards to memberships,
Yeah.
attendance of your hearings.
Mhm.
And I understand the setup for the initial organization has been pretty much on Zoom.
Yeah.
Going forward, and I'm glad the executive director is here because we'll be discussing, since we haven't met him yet, after the confirmation process and before 10 o'clock. We do have, all of us have a meeting scheduled, so we'll end before 10.
Okay.
So we'd like an opportunity to speak with the executive director on how we all look towards and the information that's given to us ethically with regards to commission meetings.
Mhm.
And so we'll discuss with the executive director because the norm for Zoom meetings was not it was an exception to the rule since
Yeah.
COVID was here.
Yep.
And so with regards to us looking at no different than all the other commissions as well, that we'd like to hear what the process is going to be for the public to attend meetings as well. And they can go on Zoom, but that was created as an exception because of COVID, but also for attendance for those that, like our neighbor island communities, then can't afford to attend meetings. And we're happy for that as well,
Mhm.
because Senator McAlvey and I are both from the neighbor islands, and we're happy to have people understand and attend meetings via Zoom as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, Senator McAlvey.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to kind of pivot a little bit to one of the discussion points that's come up this year has been the inventory of lands that are under the authority.
Mhm.
And that perhaps some of these lands, while under the authority, may be suited to be negotiated back to the original entity. How do you see the interplay between the authority, DLNR, Department of Agriculture, insofar as these threshold areas are concerned? Just your
Well, I'm not gonna go in too much detail because I don't think that we've established as the system of interplay, because that's what I think the majority of our conversations are about, is generally how do we meet to discuss that issue, not breach sunshine law, really get our systems established so that when we are established that we have some framework and foundation to be able to have that interplay. Right now, I don't see any interplay yet.
Okay.
But I know that
Well,
is.
this is one of three things that's going to, I'm actually glad you're investing time into the relationships and building them, because they're going to be tested and
Yep.
shattered
Mhm.
with the big, huge, tough conversations
Yeah.
this authority was brought together. And
Yeah.
one of them is, and I kind of joked about it with the author of who established it, he went up to Mauna Kea himself looking at the old telescopes, and he said it was like out of Star Wars when you knocked on the big steel door and the eye came out, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
these giant abandoned telescopes. That's one of the conversations I'm assuming you guys are going to focus in on, right? Is what is the removal plan for the telescopes, and how do you ensure that the ones that are there are getting the use? Is that something that's already being considered? Is that one of those things that you're still trying to build these strong relationships before you tackle?
Well, I know that we have started conversations about the dismantling. I don't think any decisions have come across our table. In fact, I know no decisions have come across our table, but the discussion and the information that's passed on to us, we do have that as far as it's already been decided. So the things that have already been decided prior to the establishment of the authority, that's happening, and we're being informed about that. But yeah, no.
But are you going to be more proactive though in the
Yeah,
future with the
definitely.
university, like demanding, okay, what is your timetable? How are you going to utilize the ones
Yep.
that are there? And how do you create telescope time for Native Hawaiian students as well to ensure that they're getting access to this?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that with the establishment that we have now, the conversations that come across that are critical of that nature, they're going to be taken on pretty. I mean, I think the robustness of the relationships, the type of thinkers that we have at the table, the representatives, yeah, those decisions, they're going to test us. I mean, we've been tested a little bit, you know, just in our discussion. We're not going to agree on everything, and it's not going to be easy internally. But the internal discussions to the authority and how they branch out and affect other committees and other governmental agencies, that is, I think that's the crux of this next term, because that's, I mean, to me, we're moving through system establishment. This is why I sit on the authority. Is why I believe, like, in my own personal experiences, is that I would say I'm an establisher, that I've sat on the Charter School Commission because they were in flux. And during the time that I entered the commission, there was flux in establishing the systems and the philosophies of system. That's what I think. For me, as an individual, that's what I feel my role is to help through that educational perspective, understanding the educational landscape, but building and establishing the proper systems to be able to move into these conversations is, I'm going to say, critical. Because if we cannot, if discourse intra-committee or intercommittee breaks down, everything breaks down. Yeah. And so I think the role is more right now to establish properly the system structure so it can hold itself up with those conversations to come, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up, Senator McKelvey from the island of Maui. And perhaps my suggestion, when we communicate and talk today with the new executive director, all of the footprint, well, not all of the footprint, but the footprint that was set years ago already includes the dates for decommissioning. So perhaps when we do the communications prior to the session, in holding our informational briefing, perhaps at that time, we can include the university or the Institute of Astronomy to bring their plans of old, because this authority does not do the decommissioning, but they are there to work with the transition and to where they're going after, or what is to take place. And so I think at that time, we can have a sense of where, what roles were already made with the footprint, how many of the telescopes, because we already had, they're working on the second one, and actually the third, because the university's telescope has already been dismantled as well. So it gives us all a history of the role then that the authority moves going forward. Yes, Senator Elefante.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Congratulations on your nomination again and reappointment, Mr. Krug. The one question I have is on your questionnaire. This is, I know you may not know it off the top of your head, but this has specifically had to do with question 5 in terms of how would these qualities benefit Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority. And one of your answers is, as you are kind of articulating here, is that you have background in charter schools and establishing systems. So I was just curious to know, you mentioned here that, quote, I hold a lens that allows vision to include contemporary systems, ideas along with cultural inclusion, end quote. Can you kind of expand on what you mean by contemporary systems?
Well, okay. So, and this is just from, my ideological lens, is that the systems in Hawaii are generally mirroring federal best practice, I would say, governmentally. And when you go into commission, and I will speak specifically about the Charter School Commission, is that there's a national board called NACSA that has their best practices, and not all of the best practices, as we've conversed, and I'm no longer on the Charter School Commission, but in that moment, that not all of those national best practices fit the Hawaii landscape, societal landscape. And I think the relationships that are necessary here, and I think we've already seen it show up in some of the testimonies in some of the authorities' meetings and decisions we've had to make, that there's this need to balance the people here, the societal norms here, the societal discourse norms here, with how we talk about things governmentally and how we make these high-level decisions as an authority. So I'm a cultural practitioner, and so being a cultural practitioner for over 20 years, you end up learning a tradition, and then the traditional expectations of practice, and how do you, I mean, I always use the word discourse, but how you talk to people and how you interact. And many times, as I've seen in the past, and my experiences on Mauna Kea as well, during, I would say those discussionary points or critical points, was that there's something else there that can tether us all together. And that's what I'm looking for. And I believe in that. And I think that my experiences, although I'm not going to call myself, I'm the expert, I might be one of the catalysts to be able to help enhance the discourse between folks that are carrying a cultural perspective and those that are not, and those that have been disassociated from a cultural perspective. So really trying to bring people together through conversations and tether ourselves to something that we can unify around. That's my philosophy. And so I think that that's a blend of the contemporary societal belief structures and frameworks that exist, and tethering that to something more, I would say, more culturally of the host culture here in Hawaii, the Hawaiian culture. And that's not saying that that's predominantly it's ethnocentric view. I just share with people, and I'm a broken record, but we are all representatives of our species in this place, and that's a culture born that belongs to all of us. It doesn't just belong to those who label themselves as Native Hawaiians. It's best practices on how to behave in Hawaii. And so when you take that and couple it with the contemporary system, I think that that's a progressive blend that I hope to help influence on the authority.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, you can have a seat. We'll continue on with our agenda items. Members, let's proceed then with GM 729, and this is submitting for consideration and confirmation to the Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority, GM Joshua Manguil, for a term to expire June 30th, 2027. Okay. Good morning, aloha. I know you're already prepared, but yes. We've received communication in support of GM 729 and Mr. Komeji.
Same thing, Madam Chair, Vice Chairman, stand on my testimony.
Mahalo, thank you very much. We also received testimonies from Rich Matsuda in support. And is there anyone else who wishes to speak on GM 729? Aloha, good morning again.
Good morning again. County Hawai'i, and here again to support online.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your presence again as well. Good morning. Aloha, Lanikila.
Good morning.
Thanks for being available. And you've already had a sense of the discussions that we've already had. You are proceeding up before the committee with regards to the extension of your membership with the authority. Can you kind of share so far your experience? And I think during our discussions yesterday, your membership on a particular PIG committee as well, so our members can understand your role.
Aloha and mahalo everyone. Yeah, it has been a great opportunity, I think, that we've been able to participate in. I myself, too, again, being one of the original authors of or participating in the Mauna Kea working group originally, I felt it's an honor to see that vision come into play and continuing to pursue this for the overall better benefit for the health and well-being of both our mountain and our communities. This past year has been a very great learning opportunity for myself. I think open in that this is my first time serving on a state board. So it's a learning opportunity for me. My role representing as a cultural practitioner, that is my strengths and that is my background. And so learning these processes, I really aloha and mahalo everyone else on the board too, who have helped to support me in understanding these processes, as well as to our AG's office for helping to support the education of this for all of us in creating a new office. And that's one thing I realized in a lot of my learning is how out of practice the state of Hawaii is in creating new board. There hasn't been a new board created since the 1980s. And so there's a lot of updating that has to take place, as well as a lot of communications and relearning for everyone, because the process hasn't been done for so long. And a number of things that we are finding are maybe a bit outdated that needs to be brought into the times. So in that process of creating a brand new office, it's a learning curve all the way around for everyone. But I've been proud to be able to help participate in this and to be a learner of this. I've been part of the first PIG I was part of was helping with the overseeing of the decommissioning of the first telescope up there. This decommissioning process this was the CSO telescope. Just basically helping to hear, as was mentioned earlier, that this is the process that was originally put into play, and just we're helping to observe and see that through in our right now in our state of co-management with the University of Hawaii. So just being able to follow along in process and just kind of help to ensure that everything runs smoothly. And so far, so good. As well as that, also serving to help in community engagement. And that's a very important role that I think is very critical, as it's no secret. This is a very, in some cases, contentious mission that we are on. It was, the formation of this board is the result of the community standing up and demanding something change. Recognizing that what was happening prior was not in balance and was not working for the community, or in balance with the whole community. So this is an effort to try and bring things into balance. So helping to establish, and as we are establishing our second round of community talk story, community engagement, and trying to set that process up so that there is a constant communication with our communities. That's very essential as well. So for myself too, just helping to continue to support the movement forward, especially from my particular practice and knowledge base as being a cultural practitioner of Mauna Kea, of these places, born and raised here on Hawai'i Island, helping to also carry forward into this the protocols necessary that for me particularly coincide with the existing reality that Mauna Kea is a conservation district. And so I find my role to be very important as a cultural practitioner. And for me, finding that balance, kind of speaking to what Kalehua was sharing too, in the sense of looking at contemporary or new ways of looking, for me, is actually finding the bridges between the traditional and perhaps new laws and or management systems for the mountain. And so that's some of the things that we have to bring into balance coming into the future. And so for me, helping to bring that perspective to the board for the assessment looking forward on how to better manage our mountain is critical. So, mahalo.
Okay. Any further questions or discussions, members? Okay. Hearing none. Lanikila, there's I earlier brought up on the use of the hearings that's been conducted And I agree that the use of the Zoom has been pretty much effective in the organization in the last year and a half. And I must point out for the public as well, and for the community to understand the importance of the membership. Now, understanding that you and POMAI are full-time teachers. I understand that going back to looking at the participation of members of a commission, no different than all the other commissions approved and discussed with previous or current commission attendance, as well as the oversight on how state government should operate. So with that said, and I'm happy that with the Zoom operations for the interim, since you folks are already going on into the pretty much the end of the 2 years that Mr. Komeiji allowed and worked out attendance as your 2 full-time teacher members of the authority, and understand your role in your private membership in your occupations. So with that said, I was, kind of pleased that Mr. Komeiji was able to work it out so you folks could participate via Zoom. So we will be discussing, and I'm going to cut this off as soon as possible because we have POMAI coming on, and 3 of us do have to attend a meeting at 10 o'clock. So having said that, I think it's something that you folks will be working on, and we'd like to talk to the executive director since he's here. We don't have an opportunity because we're closing down this session, but there'll be future discussions going forward before the 2025 session as well. And so we appreciate you folks and your presence and becoming a member of this active authority going forward. Okay, I think that's all for now. Anything you'd like to add, members? Any further questions? Okay, hearing none. Mahalo, Akila. Thanks for being available today. We'll call on GM then 731, and this is submitting for consideration and confirmation to the Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority, GM, for Maikalani Brittleman for a term to expire June 30th, 2027. Aloha, POMAI. Mahalo for being there up and early, but you're up and early anyway in the lovely community of Waimea. We did receive communications from, of course, John Komeiji.
Madam Chair, Vice Chair, same thing. So then on this one.
Okay. Thank you, appreciate it. Also, Rich Masuda has sent communication in support. We have about 10 others, but we do have in person, Mr. Adams here.
Thank you very much, Chair, Vice Chair, again, supporting the nominee.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Sending communications is Nicole Anakalea, Jean Bezila, Jessica Kawi Fu, Amanda Rowe, Chad Paishan, Malili Dixon, Shay Kama Kaala, Willette Akima, Kailani Murphy, and Keenan Kahaili Omi. And these were sent on your behalf to support you, POMAI. Can you also share then your
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aloha, Madam Chair, and aloha, Senator Elefante. It's good to see you folks again, and thank you for having us in this session. As with my counterparts, Kalehua and Lanakila, I first wanted to extend my gratitude to you folks because I think what, in reflection, what is really important to me and stands out to me is the fact that you folks have been part of our story, of the story of Mauna Kea Authority, in bringing us to this point where we are. So mahalo nui for that. With regards to the pig, I have actually been involved specifically in 3 of the pigs. Aloha, Senator McKelvey, it's good to see you as well. I've been involved directly in 3 of the PIGs. The initial PIG was with the administrative assistant hiring, and that was with Rich and Kalihua Krug. The second PIG that I was involved with, and I'm actually very excited about, is the communication and community engagement PIG. And that because it really enables and has allowed us to be able to create opportunity to have dialogue with our community, who, you know, we are here because of the community. This board has been put together because of a call out from the community. And so just really excited to have been work alongside with Laura Ka'akua and Lanakila in that particular PIG. And then the third PIG that I've actually been involved with is the hiring of the executive director. And that was along with Paul Horner and Laura Ka'akua. And what I can say that I've learned through each of them is the expertise and the experience that each of the members that I've been able to work with have and bring to the table. This first year has really been a year of I would say I would coin it pipili na mea apo, meaning that all things are related and all things have relationship. And so within this particular authority body, we really have been working to establish relationship. That has been first and foremost for us. And I want to just also emphasize that something that has been really, really key for us is that every time and each time we all come together, whether it be in person in our August meeting last year when we went up to the mountain to meet, and in all of our meetings as we come through in Zoom, especially because that is our mode right now of our hybrid, if you will, of communication and being able to gather. Our focus, we have established and put the mountain as the center focus of our conversation. Well, we state that and we say that each time, so that when we go into conversations, when we are going through our agenda and we're going through all of our speaking points and making decisions, that we remember and that we reminded ourselves at the very beginning of the meeting and the establishment that Mauna Kea is the center and the focus. Coming from Hawai'i Island, as a Hawai'i Island kama or kama'aina, that for me is already a very significant intention. And so I think I have enjoyed myself with this board. I am in awe of the things that I learned from everyone, and I am grateful that everybody continues to come to the table and is willing to have the hard conversations, is willing to, even in our conversations, challenge each other to think through specific things or to marinate on things so that we can make the best decisions as we collectively move forward. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for mine? Okay, other than that, mahalo and good to see you again. Pomai was one of many of my constituents in the district of Waimea, and aloha to the ohana as well. We'll proceed then with discussions with regards to the executive director. Okay. Aloha and welcome.
Hello, Madam Chairman, committee members.
And before that, John, why don't you come on up too, because you're the point person that has been in charge of the offices, and tell us the date he was appointed, or
Yes.
you know, and then we'll ask him some
Okay, so
questions.
Mr.
And
DeFries,
thank you for being here as well.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate the time, your time. Mr. DeFries started almost 2 weeks ago from today, 2 Wednesdays ago. We went through a very exhaustive process in terms of hiring him. We opened it up to the entire community. And then as Pomai indicated, we actually had a screening committee that screened and reduced the number of applicants to 3. The board then interviewed all 3 and came to a determination. We had a public discussion about who we would hire and came to the conclusion that we'd hire Mr. DeFries. So he's been on board, like I said, for almost 2 weeks now. So I may be able to and fill in some of the pukas because he's still trying, as you would expect, trying to catch up. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that as well. And getting to know John, most of us have already met him. And one thing that I can say is that because he was already part of the system, and so being with HTA as well, understand the role of the executive director, but now focusing on the different perspective of a new industry. But you know, it's he's from the Big Island, so he's familiar with what's available and what's there on our lovely island as well. This now on, can you explain to the committee then what level of his pay scale? And I understand that, you know, you can give us more or less what pay scale that you used, because this is pretty much all new for the authority. And you folks had created your own budget. So did you compare it to other authorities, or?
We did a comparison, and West Machida was helping me in terms of having someone with governmental experience. So we identified, I would say, 6 or 7 other executive director positions. We then considered the nature of this position in the fact that it's unlike some of the other directors, it's extremely high pressured system, and we wanted to attract people. So I believe the scale went from 170 something to 225.
Okay.
And we actually cut him in the middle in terms of hiring him. We also, it's an at-will position, subject, of course, to all of it. It's exempt, so it's subject to all of you funding, giving us appropriate funding to continue to hire him. So it's at will on both sides. But anyway, that's the sort of the term. We informally agreed to a 3-year term because subject to the at will, also subject to the funding. But just to give everyone, both John as well as the community, some idea about, you know, we intend to stay with him for 3 years, right?
Okay. So similar to pretty much the expiration of the 3 that we're confirming today.
Correct.
As well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, going further, but most of the discussions will be forthcoming from the committee to the executive director and giving him enough time. So I think John will be kind to you. So we'll, prior to the session of 2025, that we'll be calling in an informational briefing at that time, because we want to make sure that prior to WAM's meetings as well, because you'll be there during the budget hearings as well. So with that said, John, I know, okay, so understanding how many of the positions have already been filled. So so you hired John, you hired the assistant. How many more positions?
So
what
we
about
have-
the staffing?
Yeah, so we have
And a staff of how many?
we have
you're planning?
four more positions that are open. We have first what we call a program director who ends up sort of being the COO. We've advertised for that position. We've closed it, and now my belief is that the executive director now takes, because we had no employees, the board members had to do that. But
Sure.
now now that we have an executive director, he should be the one interviewing and selecting his team. So that's closed. We also have
So the position has not been filled, but you already have gone through the process and have the names.
right. So
Right,
so
okay.
we tried to get ahead. We knew that there's going to be a lag time between when he got hired or an executive director got hired. So we wanted to have a pool ready for whoever that executive director was. So we actually went ahead
Okay.
early on to do that. We also have a position open for administrative service officer who would take care of all of the back office kind of HR, IT, finance, that kind of. So that position has been advertised and continues to remain open. At this time, because of the lag time it's going to take to hire that person, we're considering hiring somebody on an 89-day contract get us, we
Going
got to
like
do
that.
all these things in parallel, right?
Sure.
To get things going. We also have 2 program specialist positions that we're recruiting for, but we haven't gotten, which sort of going top down. But all of that responsibility for the hiring, et cetera, to me gets turned over from the working board to the executive director. My belief is that that's the most, what I've seen in terms of organizational structure makes the most sense.
Okay, going back to the one that you mentioned that was actually important as well. The person that you're considering, what were the purviews now? That person would be responsible for pretty much the secretarial part and the finance and what else?
HR,
The
all
HR,
of the back
okay.
office kind of things, right?
Would you consider though on the financing part to keep it kind of separate because you're in the position now of finalizing many other areas like finding the place and so the briefings will, so I'm not sure if you're able to find an HR person with the ability of having the background of financing. So
That's-
maybe that's something you guys should.
We'll take a look at that.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
Take a look. Yeah,
Yes.
that's kind of important because,
Yes.
yeah, and financing people too are not pretty much public guys. I mean, or person, not guys and gals. So, having said that, to me, I think that's kind of important.
Why are
Senator
you guys
McCallum.
hiring an IT person?
Why?
Are you guys running networks, fiber on the mountain?
No. But I
What
mean,
exactly is an IT person being hired?
we're gonna have to do our own webpage. We're gonna figure
But
out.
you can do a web page real easy on yourself.
Yeah.
Or with the University of Hawaii Hilo right there, probably to hire an IT position, how much would this IT person get paid?
No. The one position is the person that's going to be responsible for IT, HR, as we currently subject to
Okay.
we're not
Well,
necessarily.
what's this one person gonna get paid? Benefits and everything. What's the cumulative amount? Because my concern is you're hiring employees with benefits and everything, and the funding is not, there's no concrete stream of funding coming in.
Right.
And maybe these kinds of things could be done cooperatively with other agencies.
That's what we're trying to do, but we need somebody that's going to be responsible initially for that oversight. It's not the person actually doing the work.
Mhm.
So this one person, and the problem is that if we bring in this administrative service officer, they're responsible and subject to the chair's comments, HR, IT, finance, and they're just oversight that they report to the chair. We may end up hiring on a temporary basis, someone to help us with our webpage or get somebody to help us on the
Yeah,
webpage.
because IT is not a web page. It's
Right.
completely different. IT is a full system.
We don't intend to hire.
But
an
if you
IT.
advertise as IT, there's gonna be an expectation that the person coming in.
No,
is
we're
gonna
not.
hire for that kind of
We're hiring somebody that has all 3 of those functions that I mentioned,
Mhm.
HR, finance, IT, to be responsible, not to actually to do it. This is more administrative
more of a
function.
coordinator to
Yeah,
outsource.
yeah,
for the
yeah,
services.
yeah.
Okay. All right, well, thank you.
And also you have the opportunity to hire certain areas on by contract as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what that person would do,
Yeah,
determine what contract.
exactly. Senator Elefante.
Yeah, I know we're on time constraints, but this is just more of a comment. I just want to acknowledge Chair Komiji, Madam Chair, because I know it's a very heavy lift and a hard role, and for your involvement to really start up an authority. So really, thank you
Thank you.
for all your hard work that you've done to work with the board and come to where we are today. I know there's much more challenges ahead to work through that, but we really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you. Let me publicly say that the legislature has been, as well as the governor, has been extremely supportive of the board and has provided us with the resources that we need. The challenge is actually going through the state system. So
That's correct.
the
That's right.
delay had nothing to do with the legislature or the governors, trying to figure out how we maneuver through the state system.
And there's a system already there. So
Yeah, and
how
we
do
kind of,
you
and to try to
incorporate-
change it is really
Oh,
difficult.
yes, yeah. Okay, thanks so much as well, John. Appreciate that, all you have done. Mr. DeFries, welcome. So as the discussion has been ongoing, we'll, let you get your feet wet and then, so expecting some discussions as we move forward. Now, some of the things that, and I've had discussions with John as well. For me, my concern is you know, the students, you can find, you know, a place, your office, and I think it's probably ongoing still.
Yes.
Okay, so you need an office because they've been moved, you know, accommodating their meetings, with all the shortfalls that they had to, be accommodated with. So, with that said, keep us posted, and then, prior to the session, but if there's anything else that, comes up, feel free to call us as well.
Can I make just one
Sure.
comment about, well, on the offices, we're actually getting a list from DLNR about
Good.
excess space that they may have, but much of the excess space requires substantial capital improvement. So we may look to,
Well,
yeah.
And-
yeah, so that's the next step. We're gonna ask, because I've seen some of the hearings where the attendance, so anyway, we're gonna talk to
I
the,
also know they still have the space down there,
Right.
RCUH. but that
Yeah.
makes sense.
so the chancellor, we're
Yes,
gonna talk
I
to the
know.
chancellor.
Yes.
The last
okay,
point I wanted to make, I know you have to go,
Yes.
is that we share the concerns that you have about having in-person meetings.
Mhm.
So the PIG that Pomai mentioned came up with the recommendations that every other meeting, we're trying to have every other meeting in person. And the other thing that we've done is we've had one already in-person community meeting. We're going to have another one in May. So we actually invite the community where we're actually physically present.
Okay.
So we share your concern.
Sure. Okay, all right. I understand there's we need to get out of here, not only in attendance of another meeting. However, there's another meeting that's going to be using this room. And so we appreciate, all of those in attendance here and in Zoom. Members, let's go into decision-making with regards to the agenda of April 16. Chair's recommendation on, and we'll do it in one motion. Chair's, recommendation is, to, advise and consent GM 729, 7380, and 731. Any discussions? Hearing none, Vice Chair for the vote, Chair goes aye.
Okay, Chair's recommendations is to advise and consent on the following GM 729, 730, and 731. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Cheng is excused. Senator McKelvey.
Yes.
Senator Fodella is excused. Madam Chair, your recommendations are adopted.
Okay, congratulations to all of you. Mahalo. Okay. Yeah.
Congratulations. I
This
think.
ends the Committee on Water and Land.
It's like saying
Okay, good morning. Labor and Technology Committee has a 10 o'clock agenda for 3 governor's messages and 1 House concurrent resolution. It is Tuesday, April 16, 10 a.m. agenda. We're in conference room 225 at the Hawaii State Capitol. Okay, this meeting is being streamed live on YouTube. In the unlikely event that we have to abruptly end this hearing due to technical difficulties, the committee will reconvene to discuss any outstanding business on Wednesday, April 17th in conference room 225 at 1:45 p.m. Okay. And a public notice will be posted on the legislature's website. And I'm joined by my vice chair, Senator Moriwaki. Okay, testifiers, you do have 2 minutes and 2 minutes only to testify. And the only ones who are able, who are allowed to speak beyond 2 minutes would be the nominees. Okay. Thank you very much. Up first, we have Governor's Message 704. Submitting for consideration and confirmation to the Board of Trustees of the Employees Retirement System. Okay, gubernatorial nominee Vincent Barfield for a term to expire on June 30th, 2030. Okay, up first, we have Thomas Williams, Executive Director for the ERS.
Good morning, Chair Aquino, Vice Chair Moriwaki, members of the committee. I'm Tom Williams, the Executive Director of the ERS, and I appreciate the opportunity to testify this morning in strong support of the candidacy of Vincent Barfield to the ERS Board of Trustees. I've been the executive director at the ERS for a little over 8 years, and Mr. Barfield has been a member of the board during the entirety of that time, even 4 years longer. And he's proven to be one of the most effective, most capable, most impactful board members that we have. And the board plays a critical role in the governance of our organization. So I'm in strong support of his confirmation. I'd be pleased to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you very much, Executive Director. Okay, up next, we have BNF Director, Director Salaveria. Also in support, we have General Stephen Lepper, retired, testifying on behalf of the Association of Military Banks of America. Okay, also in support, we have Lance Mizumoto. In support, and then we have the nominee, Vincent Barfield.
Chair, Vice Chair. Well, it pleases me to request an extension of my term as trustee. I've served 2 terms, which has been one of the more rewarding experiences of my business career here in Hawaii. And although I wasn't anticipating a 3rd term, just because of the challenges I think that we faced in recruiting new trustees, the board had encouraged me to extend my term, and I'm happy to do that. You have my resume, my background. I answered the questions that you sent, Chair. I think it gives you a good sense for the sort of experience in banking and finance and investments and business that I bring to the organization. And I'm very willing to continue to support the ERS in an additional term.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Yeah, Vice Chair.
Thank you for your service, and thank you for agreeing to serve another term. What have you found to be challenging in the ERS board or the system that maybe can be improved for the next term, should you be appointed?
Well, I think some of the things that we've done in my prior terms, such as build the investment strategy, which really does a nice job at mitigating the risks that we faced in the great financial crisis in 2008, where the system took a big hit and we didn't fully recover from that, for many years. And so the whole concept there was to build that strategy. But in order to do that, it required, I think, a lot more resources and independence of the staff that we have at ERS. So, I'd say for the last 5-6 years, we've been building that staff with the support of the legislature, with the approvals of positions and so forth. And so we're in good position. We need to continue to commit to that strategy in order to mitigate future risks, which means that we need to continue to build the team that actually manages that strategy for us. And so I certainly want to see that as a priority continuing in my next term. On the operations and accounting side at ERS, I think we have an excellent team. We have had some turnover, including in our senior ranks. And so getting those positions filled on a timely basis and also getting qualified candidates is going to be really important for us. And that has been a challenge. There's no question. We're running a vacancy rate in the ERS, I think, close to 30%, which I understand is pretty typical in state departments right now. Getting candidates to get interested in our positions, just the cycle time and getting somebody on board. I'm hearing it's a minimum of 6 months, to get somebody in the seat. And then when you're talking higher level positions, you also have the added issue of compensation. Are we meeting market demands for those types of skills by offering a competitive salary? I think that's where, it's a little more difficult for us to match some of what we see in the private sector, especially in skilled positions. So, those are a few of the things that I see that I'd like to focus on. The audit and risk area for our organization, I think, has improved dramatically in the last 7-8 years as we've brought on an internal audit function, which we have contracted with an outside firm to help us with that. We have built a really nice model.
need to continue that. I think we need to focus around how to make sure that we're prioritizing our resources and our attention to key risk areas that they're identifying. But there, you kind of get back to this whole issue of, do we have the resources to support that? And that's where we're challenged. If you look at our audit reports over the last few years, the deficiencies are often around policy and administration, writing procedures, and having the personnel, to do that is quite challenging.
So where are the biggest gaps in terms of the personnel that you need? Just quickly, not going through the whole litany of
Yeah, I think
vacancies, but where are
right
you-
now it's probably on the operations and accounting side. Those servicing areas, that's probably where the biggest vacancies are. On the investment side, those are all exempt positions. So we've been able to, I think, customize our efforts a little bit more in the last few years and get key positions filled. Need more, but at least I think we're probably holding our own a little bit better on that side of the system. It's the operations servicing accounting area. We just lost our deputy director who runs all of the operations and accounting for us. She retired. And so that is going to be an important fill for us, and haven't gotten too much traction yet on that. And of course, that just occurred. She just retired in the last, I think it was last month.
Thank you very much. Currently, you serve on the Human Resources Committee. Well, what issues, what priorities are you focusing on as the chair of that committee?
We actually have a very involved process of doing performance and salary reviews for our highest level personnel, particularly our exempt employees. And we go through that every year. But then the other considerations that we have are things like I mentioned a few minutes ago, and that is just the general challenge that we have in filling vacancies and trying to garner support through other departments within the state to help us with that process. The human resources function can be quite challenging in the state system in order to get filled.
There's several ERS back bills this session, lowering of investment period, another to address our the period of our unfunded liability. What are some other ideas to address current and future needs that you believe needs to be addressed?
I think we've done a good job, and the legislature has, of identifying, key initiatives in order to improve the health of the system. The pre-funding that was done over the last few years has been a real positive. Our unfunded liability, though, is still, in the lower quartile across the country. As a matter of fact, if you look at all public state plans, I think we're ranked at 45th out of 49 states. So that puts us, I think, in a much higher risk category. So managing the fiscal expectations of the state, but making sure that we're prioritizing this very large liability, I think is extremely important. If we have a turn in the economy and the markets, we could easily slide back. And that has, to me, a snowball effect in the marketplace. If our liabilities grow, if we are perceived as having greater risk than other municipalities, it puts a little bit more pressure on us to get good credit ratings so that we can have cost-effective bond interest, right? There's just so many factors that kind of play into that.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Well,
Barfield. Okay. Up next, we have Governor's Message 726, submitting for consideration and confirmation to the Hawaii Labor Relations Board, gubernatorial nominee Clark Hirota, for a term to expire on June 30th, 2030. Okay, up first, we have DHER Director Hashimoto.
Good morning, Madam Hashimoto, Director. I'm standing on my written testimony and strong support.
Okay, thank you very much, Director. Up next, we have Department of Labor Industrial Relations Director, Jade Butai. Okay, thank you very much. Amanda Donlin, Department of the Attorney General. Support. We have Aaron Takasaki Young. Okay. Assistant Chief, HPD.
Good morning, Senators. On behalf of HPD, Honolulu Police Department, we support Mr. Clark Hirota to the nomination of the Hawaii Labor Relations Board. He'll be a good fit that's consummate with the collective bargaining agreement, Chapter 89. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And before we proceed, I was informed, and there's a correction to be made. There's actually a 1-minute testimony time limit, okay, and not a 2-minute. I do apologize. It was posted and it's on the notice. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, up next we have Mayor Rick Blangiardi, City County of Honolulu. Okay, in support, we have Kiko Bukowski, okay, testifying on behalf of IBW 1260.
Vice Chair, Bukowski, IBW 1260, stand in support of our testimony. In support.
Okay, thank you very much. We have President Bobby Kavako of Shopo in support. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and read off a list of testifiers that we have received. Okay, Lowell Chanhun.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify, Chairman Aquino. I don't intend to reiterate what I said in my written testimony, but I do simply want to call the committee's attention to the quality of support for Mr. Hirota. He has testimony in his favor from two of the most outstanding labor relations professionals in our community, the heads of the National Labor Relations Board in Honolulu, Dale Ishiki and Tom Sester. He also has the support of Judge E. John McConnell, the legendary judge from the Second Circuit, who is extremely active in labor relations and mediation in our community, having resolved over 1,000 disputes since he left the circuit court bench. And so with the quality of support for Mr. Hirota, I think the committee can be very confident that he is an excellent appointment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, up next we have Florencio Baggio Jr.
Morning, Chair Aquino, Vice Chair Moriwaki. Thanks to that gentleman who just testified in the pink tie, I got to meet Clark Hirota 26 years ago. And ever since then, he's completely impressed me with his knowledge of labor, his client counseling skills. He can just as adeptly advise a union member as a management executive. I stand in strong support, and you have my written testimony. And if you have any questions, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thomas Sester. Don Takeuchi Apuna. Okay, Carolee Kubo. Russell Kaya. John Mukai. Okay, all in support. Okay, Ryan Ota. Francis Kino. Ryan Kinoshita. Ernest Nomura. Lisa Marie Lau. Tracy Miyashiro. Fei Chang. Paul Sukiyama. Yashiki, Valerie Somira, okay, all in support. Okay, Derek Maishiro, Kimberly Hashiro, okay, support. Colleen Nakama Amarino. And we do have late testimony from John McConnell. Leslie Chin. All in support. We also have late testimony from Andrew Yim. Tracy Kubota, Deputy Director for Department of Enterprise Services, City and County of Honolulu. In support, Robert Lee, Hawaii Firefighters Association. Okay, also in support. And we have the nominee, Clark Hirota.
I don't know, sir. It's different representing someone versus representing yourself in front of a board or committee. Good morning, Committee Chair Aquino, Vice Chair Moriwaki, Senators Lee, Senator Hara, and Senator Favela, who hopefully are here in spirit. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be heard on my nomination to the management representative position on the Hawaii Labor Relations Board, or the HLRB. I want to thank Governor Green for this nomination and to his staff for working with me. I also need to thank my family, my wife Jill, my daughters Emma and Jamie, for their unconditional love and support, not only for this nomination, but for all the work that I do and everything else in my life. Also like to thank everyone who have worked at and served at the City and County of Honolulu. This includes Mayor Blangiardi and Managing Director Formby. I'd like to also thank all those who submitted testimony today, in favor or not. I really appreciate the testimony that was submitted. There's been a tremendous 20 years of public service for me, and I'd like to continue serving the public on a much broader scale at the HLRB. I was born and raised in Honolulu, just up the street from here. I remember playing Chase Master during off session and fishing in the outside and getting chased by the guard. I attended the nearby elementary school, intermediate school, and I graduated from McKinney High School. While in high school, I attended UH at Manoa. I got 2 degrees, bachelor's and master's in political science. After that, I attended the Seattle University School of Law, where I got my Juris Doctorate degree. After returning from the Washington State, I began my 27-year career in labor. My first labor-related job was working at the law firm of King, Nakamura, and Chunhun, a labor law firm with deep historical ties to the local longshore labor movement here in Hawaii. During my time at King, Nakamura, and Chunhun, my representation of various labor unions included advocating on behalf in labor arbitrations and representing my clients before the HLRB and the National Labor Relations Board, or NLRB. Following my work at King, Nakamura, and Chunhun, I began working for the Department of Corporation Counsel, City and County of Honolulu, where my role evolved and switched into representing the employer's labor interests in many different forums, including labor arbitration, Civil Service Commission, and the HLRB. Although I am no longer with the Department of Corporation Counsel, I'm currently a labor specialist with the Department of Human Resources and have been in this position for the past 16 years. As a labor specialist, I'm responsible for advising various city departments on labor matters. These matters range from, but not limited to, daily operations, collective bargaining agreement interpretation, past practices, investigations, grievance handling, and strategies. I also advocate on behalf of the city in labor arbitration. I perform training on labor matters and stand as a trier of fact for city department in contested case hearings where conflicts preclude normal hearing officers from participating in certain cases. In recent years, I also served as a panel member for the Hawaii Health Systems Corporation Merit Appeals Board, where contested case hearings for HHSC civil service employees were adjudicated. Although I would be representing management, I also understand and would consider the union's perspective on labor matters. Consequently, I would use my past experience and in my decision-making process to render fair, well-informed, well-reasoned decisions. One of the more common questions that I've been asked regarding this nomination is, why do you want the job at HLRB? My response has been, I've been involved in labor for the past 27 years. This is an area I enjoy and I'm passionate about. It will be the capstone to my labor career. When I was approached with the possibility of being a member of the HLRB, my initial reaction was of excitement and eagerness to be able to apply my knowledge and experience and to continue my public work, but at a higher level of public service. I'm aware of the enormity and responsibility of what the position I have been nominated to entails. I'm confident that if my nomination is passed out of this committee and confirmed by the Senate, I will be an asset to the HLRB and to the Hawaii labor community as a whole. I'm truly humbled by this nomination and again would like to thank this committee for giving me the opportunity to be here this morning. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions? Vice Chair.
Thank you. Good morning, and
Good
thank
morning,
you for
Senator.
all your past 27 years of service and many more to come, I hope. I do have a question because you will be representing management and you've got accolades both from unions and management. So how do you see your role sitting on the three-member Labor Relations Board?
Well, Stacy Moniz, who just got his hearing, he represents labor. Chair Oshiro is the public representative, and I will represent management. To me, the task of being the management representative is viewing the laws, rules, and policies through the perspective of management. I'm not an advocate, but I'll be reviewing and issuing decisions again from the perspective of management.
There's been talk that Chapter 89 is old, that maybe it needs to be re-looked at with the changing times. What do you see your role as HLRB member reviewing Chapter 89?
I don't see 89 as outdated. I mean, that's the rule and the law that we've been using and abiding by. There are some sections of 89 that I would hope not get diluted in terms of management rights. But again, it's for the legislature to decide, come up with policy and law, and we will abide by whatever the legislature passes.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
No,
And thank you too for meeting with me before this. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, and thank you for making the time to meet with senators over the last few weeks. The HLRB has always had this reputation. There's delays in decisions, orders being rendered in a timely manner, and improvements have been made recently. But as referenced in the latest HLRB annual report, and I quote, the remaining consolidated backlog case is scheduled to go to hearing in September 2023. The board expects to clear its pre-2016 Chapter 89 and 377 HRS backlog in the coming fiscal year. The board aims to accomplish this goal while maintaining the timely processing of new cases and conducting substantive hearings. The board continues to ensure the high quality of its decisions for present parties as well as future self-represented litigants and attorney practitioners. At the close of FY 2023, 44 Chapter 89 cases filed between FY 2017 and FY 2023 remain open, and 27 cases are pending for decision or order. And this is something that we had discussed as well. How can, in your perspective, the board reduce delays and increase efficiencies?
I actually don't know the inner workings of the board. However, to catch up on a backlog, I would work tirelessly with the two other board members to address past cases. I think I told both of you that I have cases that we've done and I've done advocated for back in 2004, 2005 that decisions haven't come out yet. And I don't think they will, but I'll look at the backlog, work with the two other board members and see and try as hard as we can to render decisions in a timely manner. I was made aware that there's a new process of handling cases where there's no active court reporter and it's video live. I mean, it's videoed. And then if the parties decide they want to have a transcript, the parties are responsible for paying that. And that I would like to discuss that with the board chair to see if because I think that would cause delay. I mean, if I'm the old fashioned where transcripts were issued after the hearings, we can look at it. I mean, I've not used the new process yet, but I'm having a hard time imagining looking at a video and citing to specific parts of testimony. Again, transcription, you just cite the volume and the page number.
Is that by rule or is that by practice, this transcript problem?
I think it's to make proper record. I mean, there needs to be a transcription of the proceeding.
Is that just the board's ruling on the using of just the video versus a transcript?
That I'm not sure, but sure in any administrative hearing, there needs to be some record. In the forums that I've participated in, we would get a written, again, what they have installed now may be better. I just haven't had the opportunity to be, just in my mind, I'm having a hard time processing that. What did Senator Moriwaki say on the third day of her testimony?
Okay. Thank you.
Nope, that's it. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much. Next governor's message is Governor's Message 727. Okay, for submitting for consideration and confirmation to the Labor Industrial Relations Appeals Board. Okay, gubernatorial nominee Harry Yee for a term to expire in June 30th, 2028. Okay, up first, we have Department of Labor Industrial Relations Director. Thank you very much. Next, we have Mark Yamane testifying for the International Union of Elevator Constructors. Okay, support. Up next, we have Scott Leong, Gary N. Kunihiro, and Paul Brook. And Christine Kim in support. Okay, we have Kalani Werner testifying for the United Public Workers State Director. In support. Up next, we have Gary Kobayashi. Okay, thank you very much. We have HGA, okay, Director Randy Pereira. Support. We have Lowell Chunhun.
Thank you once again, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to testify in support of Mr. Yee's application. I've already outlined in my written testimony what I regard to be Mr. Yee's superb qualifications for this job. I would only like to add at this time that Mr. Yee has extremely widespread support from all elements of the workers' compensation community. Defense lawyers, claimants lawyers, and although they may not have testified, I also know that key physicians who treat workers' compensation patients support Mr. Yee. And so with this widespread community support, I think he may actually also not only be able to discharge his regular responsibilities as a member of the board, but to implement some of the ideas he has about the strategic use of mediation to further enhance the efficiency and to expedite the resolution of claims. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, up next we have Wayne Mukaida. Support. Janice Fukada. Anson Rego. Timothy McNulty. Melanie Matsui, all in support. Lily Ling. William Hoshijo, both in support. Again, Randy Pereira testifying on this time for the Hawaii State Fed, AFL-CIO. In support, Charles Toguchi. Okay, also in support, Robert Kesner, Jacqueline Amai. Both in support. We also have late testimony from Gilbert Doles.
I stand support, full support of.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and we have the nominee, Harry Yee.
Aloha, Chairman, Vice Chair.
Morning.
I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to appear before you and discuss my qualifications and experience related to the appointment to the Labor and Industrial Relations Appeal Board. I'd like to start off by thanking the governor for this appointment and appreciate the time that you folks have given me prior to today to speak to you. I'd also like to recognize my wife, who's here today, Laurie, for her love and support throughout my 42 years as a lawyer. A judge once said to her, when she was at jury duty that she was being challenged because she was sitting on a case, and the attorney recognized that I was the chair of the Civil Rights Commission, and the judge looked down and said, well, that's her problem. I think that the last 20 years, and I've recently retired from the U.S. Attorney's Office, but the last 20 years of my experience as the main attorney in the civil division at the U.S. Attorney's Office here in Hawaii, defending the United States in major medical malpractice cases and tort cases, has given me the skills and the experience to take on what the Labor Appeals Board does for injured workers here in Hawaii. Prior to that, my 14 years in private practice here in Hawaii, I started off almost from day one representing injured workers. I think those two experiences, even though I was on the defense side for the last 20 years, defending the largest client in the world, I carried over my perspective for those people who were injured. And I don't think you'll find amongst the plaintiff lawyers that I've tried cases against, and I wish I could list them all because I'm grateful to them for the experience of trying cases against them, but I don't think you'll find one that would criticize me for being unfair or being at all uncivil in the context of those cases. I resolved over 600 cases as an assistant United States attorney, whether through dismissal, summary judgment, resolution, which involved alternate dispute resolution, trials. Prior to that, as a workers' compensation claimants attorney, I resolved hundreds of cases, whether through settlement or hearing. I've appeared before the Labor Appeals Board on a regular basis during those 14 years, and I feel I have a very intimate knowledge of what the board does, and had the privilege of appearing before some of the most notable members of the board: Frank Yap, Roland Tom, Senator Randy Wasson. I would open myself up to any questions that you'd have at this time. I can go on speaking about my experiences and what I've done in my life, but I'd like to close by saying that it is my desire to come out of my short retirement to serve the people of Hawaii.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yu. Any questions?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Year. We talked about this in terms of your vast experience on the federal side, and also you're representing as an advocate for the claimant. And I'm just would like you to state what you told me in terms of being a neutral and being able to make decisions in the cases that come before you of both management and employee, and being able to resolve them in a efficacious way.
Well, we spoke yesterday, Senator Moriwaki. In the past, I have not only been part of the CAP arbitration program as a lawyer, being an arbitrator in those cases, but I've also been an instructor. I've been an adjunct professor at New England School of Law, and I've taught administrative law. I've taught administrative advocacy as an adjunct professor at the University of Massachusetts in Boston. In addition to that, my most recent and most relevant experience is I was fortunate enough to be chosen to be on faculty with the Department of Justice National Advocacy Center for the last couple of years. And that course involved the training of new lawyers. And I sat as a judge in some instances on trials that those new lawyers did. I'm very proud of the experience that we were able to give to those new lawyers who will be appearing in federal district courts all over this country. I believe that I have shown my ability to not only be fair, but impartial, even in the work that I've done as an advocate, and been able to see both sides. I also believe that those who have been on the opposite side of a case from me will say that I'm a reasonable individual. And to me, that's one of the more important things to have, is to be a reasonable person and when judging cases.
We talked a little bit about the backlog and your background in mediation, alternative dispute resolution. How might you see your contribution to the board in terms of reducing the backlog and having good decisions going out, I guess, to the satisfaction, to the best possible for the parties?
I think there definitely is a role for alternative dispute resolution at the board, which I don't believe exists now. I think the board is operating under the rules that have been in existence since 1984. So I think there needs to be some hard look at those rules, and an inclusion in that hard look would be possibly adopting a mediation program, which would definitely go a long way in reducing the backlog. That's how we resolve cases, Senator, is, when you're a lawyer, it's the first alternative is never, in fact, going to trial. But that's the last resort. So we want to develop a system where people get fair resolution of their cases. So I believe that mediation, arbitration should be explored by the board. And that's one of the first things that I'd like to have a discussion with the other board members about.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. He, for being here. You had mentioned, you made some time to meet with members of the Senate, and we really appreciate that kind of outreach. You had mentioned in your questionnaire, one of your responses, particularly the question asking what do you hope to accomplish in your term of office, a term of service, and just paraphrasing that, your response was, there are opportunities to improve LIRAB's interactions and relationships with stakeholders. Can you clarify and expound on that?
Sure. I am humbled by the amount of wide-ranging support that I've received for my appointment to LIRAB. And I think that speaks well of the opportunity that the board will have after my appointment to sit down with all of these stakeholders and not in any way to supplant what you and this committee and the legislature does, but to really get down to the nuts and bolts of how what LIRAB does affects those stakeholders, to develop efficiencies that make sense, that make practical sense to those stakeholders, and involve them in those decisions, and to make sure that, because we're all working for the same thing. We're all working to make sure that those who are injured on the job here in Hawaii get a fair, efficient adjudication of their claims.
Thank you very much, members. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have one resolution on the 10 a.m. agenda. HCR 80, urging state executive departments to review minimum qualifications and compensation for class specifications for job postings and provide suggestions to the Department of Human Resources Development. Here we have the comptroller, Dags, Comptroller Regan, in support. Okay. Any others wishing to testify on HCR 80? Seeing none, any questions? No one to ask? Okay, we're gonna recess briefly for decision making. Recess. We're convening our 10:20 agenda, joint committees on labor and technology and health and human services. Okay, we do have just one resolution, HCR 81, but before we do that, okay, should anything happen due to technical difficulties, we're going to reconvene at 1:47 p.m. tomorrow, April 17th, in this conference room. Okay, and we do have a testifier's limit of 1 minute, 2 minutes, 1 minute. Okay. All right, so we have HCR 81. Okay, requests the department, the director of DLIR to amend certain admin rules, Title 12, Chapter 15, to clarify that compensation for APRNs under the state's workers' comp law is distinct from compensation for registered nurses and shall be 100% of the fees authorized under the Medicare fee schedule. Okay, up first we have Kathleen Plack. In support, Annette Manant, the Hawaii affiliate of the American College of Nurse Midwives. Okay, up next we have the Hawaii State Center for Nursing, Laura Reichardt. Okay, with comments, okay, Kathy Wilson, Franklin Ichiro Izuta, both in support, and Carol Ann Orr, MD. All three in support. Any others wishing to testify? HCR 81. Seeing none. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Chair.
Department of Labor.
Thank you. Chairs, Vice Chair Joanne Bittenhard, Department of Labor. We provide comments on this measure and are available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any others wishing to testify? Seeing none. Questions, members, Vice Chair.
Hi, good morning, Chair, not Chair, Division Head Vininar. Where am I? I don't know.
Yes, Senator.
I noticed the Labor Department has comments and not in support of this resolution. And yet it seems that the rules have been lagging behind the statutory change. Can you explain your testimony, please?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, for that question, Vice Chair for that question, Senator Moriwaki. A little history on that, just to, I know we want to make this short, but a little history on this. Going back to 2015, the department worked with the Centers of Nursing, really supporting our APRNs. Our APRNs provide a very vital role in medical services, sometimes under the role of a registered nurse, and the other times as a fledged physician. So in 2016, the law, the work comp law, was changed to add in our definitions APRNs as a provider of service. And then in 2017, we further provided further clarification on that. So we feel that the law is clear that an APRN does provide the service as a medical provider, so they will get reimbursed 100%. Now, if an APRN is working under the direct supervision of a doctor, a medical doctor, then they would get that 85%. And that's the reason why the rule is a little bit different, because the 85% is if they are under that supervision. But if they are the ones that are providing that direct medical care, then they get that 100%. Now, our carriers in Hawaii reimburse at the 100%. So what we're finding, which we didn't know that this was happening, what we're finding is that some of the mainland carriers are reimbursing at the 85%. And that is not correct. And we are educating those carriers on this because the statute is clear that as an APRN services, those provides that medical services, then they are paid that 100%.
Joanne, this Kathleen Plack's testimony is horrendous. I mean, going back and forth. I don't know if you've read the testimony, but it's like, okay, is it or isn't it? And, you have to go through about 3 layers to get paid. And I see the confusion because if it's a provider of service, you could be an APRN or not, or a registered nurse or APRN. So it seems to me the law is clear. It says provider of service, and then it says that the definition of how you get paid or how much you get paid. But the rule should clarify that, because if in fact I don't know if I'm an APRN provider of service or assisting the provider of service, maybe that should be cleared up. And would this resolution help you to do that? So that
actually,
it's clear.
We're not sure that it will. I mean, besides it is a process to go through a public hearing and to update our rules. What we're not sure is we think it would be more beneficial for us to educate the mainland carriers, because there are times that an APRN will service as an RN. So if they're just a registered nurse, then it's the 85%. And so we don't want there to be confusion. And actually we think that the law does clearly state what the difference is. Now, on this case that you're talking about with Kathleen Plack, I won't get into details there, but when we have the office visit notes, it's very specific as to what they need to identify if they are the APRN or the RN. And so I'm not going to say if this one was not, they may not have been clear, or if they were clear, then our carriers are not reading the treatment plans.
But so wouldn't rules be a way to clarify what is a provider of service, what is an assisted provider of service, so that you don't have to keep on educating, but it's there in some place you can refer to, that, is public notice, basically.
Yes.
So it would be
the general
helpful
answer would be yes, but
to do a rule change.
what we're finding with the mainland carriers is they don't always look at what the updates are anyway. But that's where the education is still important for them to know. But
Thank you.
Chair? No questions. Ready to be on for HHS.
All right, thank you. All right, we're gonna proceed into decision making for HCR 81.
We need the vote sheet. For HHS, please. Can you take the vote, Miley?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Oh, so she's also LBT?
No.
I need the vote sheet.
Okay,
But we can't vote until I get my vote sheet. We can fill in the info.
Yes is on the first two.
Okay.
Chair, you ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Okay, so joint committees on labor and technology and health and human services, decision making for HCR 81. Members, the recommendation of the chair is to move this as is. Questions or concerns? Yes. So actually, you know what, hold on. We're gonna recess briefly, recess. Okay, we apologize, but the recommendation is to move this as is, and HHS will go ahead and vote.
Yes, so same recommendation. I understand that LBT is recessing for decision-making. So for HHS as is, chair votes aye.
Okay, Vice Chair Aquino.
Aye.
Senator Keokalole is excused. Senator Shimabukuro, aye. Senator Awa, excused. Measure adopted.
Okay, so HHS is adjourned
Yes.
and
Okay.
recess for LBT.
And
Thank you.
recess
Thank you.
for labor and technology. Okay, recess. To thank everyone for your patience, especially our nominees. By reconvening our 10 a.m. agenda for decision making. Okay, up first, we have Governor's message 704. Submitting for considering confirmation to the Board of Trustees for the ERS nominee Vincent Barfield. Members, the recommendation is to advise and consent. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Aye for Chair Aquino, for Vice Chair for Senator Ihara, excuse Senator Lee.
Aye.
Senator Favela, excuse. Chair, the recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, up next, we have Governor's message 726. Consideration and confirmation to the Hawaii Labor Relations Board. Okay, nominee Clark Hirota. Members, the recommendation is to advise and consent. Questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
All members present, anyone no or reservation? Recommendation adopted.
Okay, thank you very much. Governor's message 727. Consideration and confirmation to the Labor and Industrial Relations Appeals Board, nominee Harry Yee. Members, the recommendation is to advise and consent. Vice Chair for the vote.
Okay, all members present, anyone voting no with reservation? Recommendation adopted.
Okay, and for the last on the agenda, HCR 80. Okay, urging departments to review minimum qualifications and compensation for class specifications for job postings and provide suggestions to DHERD. Members, the recommendation is to move this as is.
Okay, for HCR 80, all members present, anyone voting no with reservation? Recommendation adopted.
Okay, IT, we're gonna move directly into the 1020 agenda. Okay, so 1020 agenda, we just have HCR 81. Okay, HHS committee had already voted. So for labor and technology, for HCR 81, recommendation is to move this as is.
All members present, anyone with reservation? Voting no, recommendation adopted.
Okay, thank you very much. So we are adjourned for our 10 o'clock and our 1020 agendas. Thank you very much and congratulations.